Hello YouTube, welcome to the channel. Now then, on today's video we're going to be doing an unboxing and teardown on this. It's the MJX MEW4 M162. Now this is the buggy version. We've tested the M163, which is the truggy version, and that got a very favourable response. And this is basically very similar but the buggy version. Now the thing I can't understand about these MEW4s is they are sold as MJXs everywhere you go, on Banggood and on eBay. I started to see them turning up. They're listed as MJX MEW4, but I can't find MJX anywhere on the box or in the instructions or anything. I don't know if these are a standalone brand that are manufactured by MJX, because they're not on the MJX website. So I'm not 100% sure what the relationship is between MEW4 and MJX. So if anyone's got any clues, stick it in the comments section and enlighten me. But anyway, these are basically MJXs, but a slightly downgraded version. But they are still wicked buggies and truggies for the money. Now this was, at the time of purchasing, £71, which is about $90 to our American brethren, on Banggood, which represents really good value for money, because hands down these are as good or better than the 16889 Pro, which normally retails for £100. So at the time of making this video, this buggy was an absolute bargain for what it is, because these are quick little buggies. I mean, like I say, we've tested my brother's M163 and that is rapid. That is equally as fast as his Ram Raider is, easily, but it's just lightning quick. But anyway, this is the buggy version, so I thought we'd take a look at this, because I'm interested to know how similar this is to the MJX 16207, which is the brushless MJX buggy. So anyway, enough waffle, let's get into it. Anyway, we'll have a quick look at the box. 1/16 scale. These things got oil shocks, adjustable tie rods at the front, fully ball raced. It says rubber tyres, obviously. It's got a full metal transmission, which is basic as far as I can tell MJX. Brushless version this is, and metal differentials, etc, etc. Anyway, enough of the waffle, let's crack this box open, because I'm dying to see what's inside. Right, then in the box we've got our instructions and parts manual. We've got a spare set of tyres, and these look exactly the same as the ones on the 16207. These are like a chunky, soft, sort of off-road looking set. We've got a rear wing in a bag. We have got a battery, 1500 milliamp hours, in like a hard case. So I'm presuming this will be something like a lithium ion. We've got a USB battery charger, metal wheel spanner and a little screwdriver. We've got our transmitter, which is exactly the same as MJX's, no difference there. And last but not least, we've got the actual buggy itself. Now, once again, I've mentioned this before, MJX's, I don't know what it is about them, but they feel really substantial. There's a decent weight to this, like the materials used are just that little bit thicker, a little bit heavier duty, but the weight of this is reasonable. Now you do get these tyres with it, and I'm not sure why you get two sets of tyres, whether these are for like a hard pack loose surface and the others are more for a loose muddy type surface. I'm not sure, but you do get two sets of wheels with this, which I think is absolutely crazy considering the thing's only 71 quid. But anyway, it's a good looking machine. The bodywork is different to the 16207, which is interesting, and I have noticed that you don't get the side protectors that would normally sit there that hold those two little plastic protectors on that the bodywork sits in on the 16207. So they're missing on this, but you do get a little cutout. Oh, there's a spare battery there as well. You do get a little cutout for the battery leads in the frame. So it is a little bit different, but the same if at the same time. Anyway, I think it's a good looking machine this, but anyway, let's whip the cover off and see what we get underneath. Right then, underneath we've got our motor there, which I think is a 2835 brushless motor. We'll have a look at the KV in a minute when we take it off. We've got our combined ESC and receiver, unlike the 16207, which has got a separate unit, and this is 35 amp instead of the 16207's 45, so slightly less ampage and a combined unit on the ESC. It does come with two batteries, this thing, so we've got another 1500 milliamp hour, which I presume is a lithium ion unit in its own case. I mean, it just shows you, I mean, there's like a little plastic board at the bottom here, so I bet if that was removed we'd see that sort of MJX hexagonal pattern underneath. It just shows you though, if you removed the clip, you'd be able to get a much bigger battery in your MJX 1/16 scale truck. It's because the battery clip would normally live there, which obviously on this we've got a Velcro strap. It's missing, but looking at it, I mean, it looks very, very, very similar to an MJX, which is going to really, because I've got a sneaky feeling they're identical, bar the electronics. So whether or not MEW4 is sort of a slightly budget version of an MJX with slightly downgraded electronics, I wonder if they sell it separately for that reason, but I couldn't honestly tell you. But it does look very, very similar to our 16207 that we recently tried. I think what we'll do in this case is start ripping this thing apart and actually check the physical differences between this and a comparable MJX. Right, I'm getting a bit carried away with this teardown now, so I thought I'd better stop and have a look at some of these parts before I strip it all down. Let's start with the wheels and tyres. These actually feel like a slightly harder compound. They're less knobbly than the other type that you get in the bag. I'm not sure if these, like I say, are for a harder pack surface perhaps, but these are the MJX ones off the 16207, and these do feel a lot squishier and softer, and obviously they've got a more aggressive tread pattern on them. So the ones it comes with, these type, harder and less knobbly, but like I say, you do get a spare set of the 16207 ones in the box as well. Shocks, now then, this is interesting. These are the shocks off the MEW4. Alloy tops and bottoms, plastic middles, exactly the same size as the ones off of a, let's get some of these out, ones off of the 16207, but let's have a look at the size. Same size, but a plastic body, whereas the MJX ones are fully metal shock absorbers. So that's probably where they've skimped some of the money in making a slightly cheaper version. Is obviously you get full metal shocks on the MJX, but not on the MEW4. But apart from that, they are identical shocks. And by the way, these shocks are great budget shocks if you've got a small RC. You find these on MJXs, HBXs, all sorts. So it's not a bad thing that they've not got a metal body, because they're great shocks anyway, these, and they are adjustable for preload. Drive shafts, these are MJX fare all over. I recognise these anywhere, they're well over engineered, these, and the front and rear bumpers are alloy on this, and they are straight off of the 16207 MJX. Not sure how good these would be in a crash though, because they're fairly substantial, and not a massive fan of alloy parts, especially not in bumpers, because if you did hit something hard enough, would this break, or would you end up breaking the chassis? So, you know, just transfers the stress somewhere else. The plastics on this thing, they're all definitely MJX. Here's the rear wishbones off the MEW4. Here's a rear wishbone off an MJX 16207, and they're identical basically. So plastics wise, wishbones, suspension wise, MJX all over. Let's get into the crux of the matter now, and we'll have a look at the electronics. I want to look at this chassis actually, because it does look different from the MJX version, and we'll have a look at the transmission to see if that's the same. Right then, let's have a quick look at the electronics. We've got a standard MJX 3-wire steering servo with a little servo saver on it there. That's the same as you get in the Hyper Goes. Now our motor is a 2835. I'm not 100% sure of the KV of this thing, but I'm going to say it absolutely rips. I mean, it is a quick little RC this, but it's a slightly smaller motor than the one that you get in the Hyper Goes. But once again, it absolutely flies, this thing does. It's got a little motor radiator on it, of course, help keep it cool, but no fan, unlike the MJX. We've got our dual ESC and receiver, 35 amp, little brushless unit there. Again, that differs from the sort of 16207 MJX Hyper Go in the fact that the Hyper Go's got separate electronics, separate receiver and ESC. So that pretty much covers the electronics. Now, this is where I think there are some slight differences. The chassis, I think, on this MEW4 is slightly wider than the Hyper Go, and in fact I've got a Hyper Go one here. I'll tell you what, let's take the transmission out. These are the same, the diffs, the metal diffs are all metal construction, and the central drive shaft there and reduction gear is all metal as well. Now, my brother has had some issues with his MEW4 in the fact that it's eaten, I think, a couple of these reduction gears. I'm not surprised because the thing is constantly on the back wheels, and you'll normally wear the rear sort of gearbox out first on RC that it wheelies all the time, because of course as soon as the front lifts, all the power goes straight to the back and just puts a bit of extra strain on the rear. But he's launched two of these gears. I believe there is a steel alternative, but although I'm not 100% sure, but he has had problems with the rear gear. But it's such a powerful little RC that I'm not surprised it eats the transmission. Let's take these out quickly and show you. All metal, of course, all on ball bearings. I don't know if that's helped at all. I don't know if you could tell off the camera, but the MEW4 chassis is a little bit wider, approximately 5mm each side, I would imagine. There are no side protectors for the bodywork on the MEW4, unlike the MJX, they normally screw in there. But the chassis on the MEW4 is slightly wider than the MJX one. So that's pretty much the MEW4 M162 in bits. We've had a pretty good teardown of this thing. What do I think? Well, going on my brother's M163, these are well worth it. I mean, 71 quid, $90, it's a hell of an RC for the money. I mean, at this scale, 1/16th, you'd be hard pressed to beat that price. They go like stink. They seem to be reasonably well put together, barring a couple of issues with the reduction gear. But I've got no qualms in recommending. They are a real fun little RC to pilot around. I mean, the thing literally spends most of its time on its back wheels. My brother's truck. I mean, he's put an MJX clipless body on now, and that looks mint, because obviously all the MJX bits and pieces are all interchangeable most of the time. But I've got no qualms about recommending it. It really is a fun and competitively priced little RC, and I think if you're in the market for a cheap 1/16th truck or buggy, give these little MEW4 RCs a look first before you go and buy any of the competition. As ever, there will be a link in the description to where you can go and get one of these from on Banggood. I will try and get a promo code out of them for my subscribers. If you've enjoyed the video and you found it of some use and interest, please give it a big thumbs up. And if you're feeling that way inclined, hit that subscribe button for more similar future content. Once again, guys, thanks for watching, and I will catch you again very, very soon.